Good day and welcome to In Their Shoes. For those of you who tuned in with us before, you know that In Their Shoes is a podcast that deals with social issues. In the past, we've talked about things like food insecurity and mental health. A few weeks ago, we had a guest here in Marlborough that talked to us about a project that Rotary International has trying to establish a homeless shelter for us here in Marlborough. Joining me today from Amsterdam in the Netherlands is my co-host, Rokus Lupik. Rokus will be joining us, and in a minute I'll introduce our guest. But Rokus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for a second, and then get us started?
Thank you, Rich. Good evening. My name is Rokus Lupik. I'm from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and let's say I'm a homeless specialist, somebody who takes great trust in peer support. I've done 20 years of outreach in Amsterdam, helping people with complex needs. And let's say I'm some kind of a homeless advocate.
Okay. Well, and I know that you've been involved in many different things. And that brings us to our guest today. I'd like to welcome Leannah Giles, a resident here in Marlborough, Massachusetts. We've asked Leannah to join us today to talk about some of her own personal experiences regarding being sometimes without a home. And we're going to talk for a while about that and ask Leannah to give her perspective. Rokus, maybe you'll start us off with our first question.
Yeah, Leannah, thank you so much for being with us. It's great that you took the courage and the time, you found the time to be with us. Obviously, my first question as a good healthcare worker, outreach worker would be, what happened to you?
Okay, well, thank you for having me today. So I was a teenage mom. I had my first daughter when I was 16 years old. So things were definitely tough as a teenager, trying to find stability for me and my daughter. I was living in between different family members' homes as I was awaiting to get housing. Any subsidized places, I was applying to all of them and just waiting, which the waiting lists are a good 2 years. 2 years is usually the quickest you can get housing. But in the meantime, I was just back and forth with different family members and friends, living in different places with my daughter.
Wow. A 2-year wait to get housing.
Yeah. So, and that was low income subsidized housing. So.
Right. Do you think that's a pretty common experience, people having to wait a long time to get housing?
Definitely. I think that's one of the hardest experiences people face is that big wait. The waiting list is huge. So in the meantime, it leaves people really with nowhere to go. Sometimes shelters are really full. I personally had even applied to a shelter, and the wait list to get into the shelter was also a long time.
Right. So applied to a shelter. What happens when you apply?
So at the time I was living in Framingham. So for me to apply to a shelter, I had to find a way to Worcester, which I was 16 years old. I had no car and I had a daughter. So that was already hard enough to do. But when I did find a way to Worcester, they actually kind of like denied me shelter. They had told me at the time, if you're not living in a car and you are living in between houses, then they'll really take like other people before you, which is, it also makes it hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rokus, I know that we've talked about this before, that there's some common experiences, but do you think the experience in the Netherlands, can people expect to get something to happen differently in the Netherlands? Leannah just says you had to wait 2 years to get housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we have waiting lists here too. It's, there are no houses, not enough to be honest. And a lot of people are homeless. In the Netherlands, I believe we have about 35,000 people being homeless. So, yeah, the ways to get a home it's very difficult. It's going to take you years. And we also have this rule that if you lived in Amsterdam before and you became homeless there, that's the only city where you can apply for a new home. So you can't go to other cities. They'll probably send you back to Amsterdam,
Right.
to wait for this uh, wish to have your own place to stay. So yeah, it's a common thing. Just a week ago, they opened the winter shelter system, so it gets too cold, and they create extra places for people to stay during the day, 24 hours if they want. But that's no home. The
Mm.
shelter system often scares people off because it's not a good place to be, right?
Right.
You have to be tough to survive even in the shelter system.
Sure. Leannah, Worcester is 20 miles away.
Yeah.
And you said as a teenage mom, you didn't have a way to get there. So what did you do in that in between time?
Honestly, I just had to keep explaining the situation to different family members and hope for the best. And, you know, I'm just like, please don't leave me and my daughter outside at the time. And luckily, my grandmother let us stay. But it's also hard for them growing up in a family who also came from poverty, and them also having Section 8 and things like that, allowing people to stay with them. It's a big process. They would have to add you to the lease, and then if they only have a one-bedroom apartment, they would have to move to something bigger, and that's putting a lot on them, especially when you're trying to get your own stability. Like, my goal wasn't to live with a family member, it was to get an apartment of my own.
Right. So the 2 years pass. What's today look like?
Much better. Thank God. Much better.
Well, that's great.
I've finally been in my apartment for about 3 years now. So it's much better. I've just been in the same place. But the only thing is that is difficult with the subsidized housing is I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I have a son and a daughter, so I would like to have a 3-bedroom apartment. And I'm on the wait list for many, many places, which by now it's been about 5 years since I've been on the waiting list for other places looking for 3-bedroom apartments. And what they say is they will continue putting my name in the back of the application because they'll continue taking emergency applicants first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. Once you're in a place, you're kind of stuck there.
Right.
If you apply to other places, it's very hard to get out and even get a 3-bedroom now if you need one instead of a 2-bedroom.
Right. So we're hearing the experience in 2 countries. We have the Netherlands, where honestly, for the number of years I've worked with Rokus in the Netherlands, I thought we were going to hear a different story. But it sounds like the shelter system in the Netherlands is similar to the shelter system here. And we, when you mentioned, Rokus, that you opened the cold weather shelter, I saw just the other day we had the exact same experience here. We're sitting at about 25, 30 degrees Fahrenheit here, and people are waiting on the street to get into it and get into a shelter bed.
Which mean we're all in this together, right?
Right.
It's a global thing. It's a global thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a new politician in The Hague. I believe we call it Secretary of State. In your country, it's something different. But they claimed housing first to be the leading method to house homeless people in the Netherlands. So, and that is a big thing because I don't know if Leannah knows what housing first is, but it's about housing people without preconditions, right off the street or from the shelter system or from jails or from hospitals. People who are homeless get a home right away. And of course, it's difficult in the Netherlands because we have a lack of homes, but to being stated that Housing First is going to be a leading program in the Netherlands, it's going to make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
So,
this method, Leannah?
I don't, but that actually sounds amazing. I think having a method like that in place would make a huge help. And I think in the areas where we live in Metro West and surrounding towns, there's many, many apartment complexes being built, but not many shelters. And I think if there were to be more shelters or more even just apartments that were affordable for people, it would make a huge difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
What'd you have to prove to show that you needed this housing? I know that we hear a little bit about the Netherlands saying, well, if you're on the street, you qualify, sort of. What did you have to say in order to get housing?
So it's really just an application process for the housing. I think the wait list is mainly the thing that makes it hard for people.
Mm-hmm.
But if your income qualifies for these apartments, that's mainly the thing. Sometimes you can get emergency assistance, but the emergency assistance is still a very long wait.
Right.
But that would be if you are living on the streets. You can just prove that you really have no address, possibly get some type of letter or people to vouch for you that know your situation.
Mm-hmm. We think there are people living on the streets in Marlborough. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. Definitely, yeah.
So there are women out there who might spend the night in the car,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to figure out a relative who might help them out, as it sounds like you had to do,
Right.
in order to survive from day to day. What other things do you think that women, especially women with children, are facing, in addition to the housing issues?
Well, there's definitely many things that everyone in general are facing, but women with children, being a single parent is very difficult, and just with prices rising on everything, food and things like that, it's been really difficult. Luckily, Marlborough, we do have good food pantries around here to help people, and I think there is a lot of assistance. It's just not everybody knows of the assistance that's out here and the organizations that can help you. So I think it would be nice to just implement something that shows all the different organizations that are out here that can help you, what they can help you with. And just, I think being somebody who comes from homelessness and having to be my own hero in a way, you have to realize nobody is going to be your hero. You have to take action. You have to go out there and you have to find the help that you need and just take advantage of the help around you if you can.
Yeah. How did you find out what's in the community? Was there a resource available to you? And did someone say, "Hey, you should go there"? Or how did that happen?
Yeah. So actually at the time, I was working in a daycare and I was babysitting for one of the parents that I worked for. And she was talking to me about credit, and I just kind of mentioned to her a little bit about my life, and she was like, wow, I didn't know you were facing all of these issues. And she actually worked for a nonprofit organization in Boston. So she started telling me about all of these resources that I had no idea about. And I just took advantage of them. I called the resources. I applied to different places. I joined a program called One Family Scholars, and they actually helped me go into college, and they helped with just a lot of stuff. Goals was the main thing, figuring out like what I wanted to do with my future. And they actually try to help people get into shelters and stuff too if they need to.
Okay. So you're in college now.
I'm in college now. Yep.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And I understand from talking to my wife, you are doing an internship here as well, or starting an internship.
Yeah, I am. So I'm interning for MCDC in Marlborough. And actually, on Fridays, we meet with other nonprofit organizations. So I have been hearing a lot about different issues when it comes to homelessness around the community. And I don't think that we have many shelters that are helping women with children in the community. So that's something that different organizations are trying to come together and work on establishing more of.
Yeah, I know a previous guest, Mark Vitale, is actually trying to get that coalition together. Rokus, what's the situation for homeless women in the Netherlands? Do they face what Leannah faces?
Let's see. I think and I don't mean that disrespectful, because a lot of people are homeless, but when it seems that you're a young woman having children, probably you will get housed quicker than anybody else. It's important that kids shouldn't live out on the streets. Mothers also, but kids is a special thing, right? So they have special places here for women with children who became homeless. And I don't, to be quite honest, I never see homeless women with kids out on the streets here. It's mostly, it's always two-thirds men, one-third women, talking about single people. Most of the time, I see males, adults, on their own out on the streets. I've never seen a young woman like you, Leannah, with two kids out on the streets. To be quite honest, I think. Well, I don't know if things are better here, but they won't. Even in Amsterdam, the mayor will never allow a young woman to be out on the streets with kids. I'm sure about that.
Pretty ironically, here in Marlborough and Metro West, we're going to find more men's beds than we will women's beds, which is sort of crazy when you think about it. A woman with children may have a little bit better access, but a woman without children almost has no access. And that's it's really an irony in our system that we can find more homeless beds here.
That's the same with us. Yeah. Can I ask Leannah a question, Rich?
Sure.
Because I'm always so curious about people who were homeless. Being down and out, not knowing where to go, not knowing where to start, building up your life again. Most of the time, there is this specific moment along you bumped into along your quest for being housed again, and I call it my key moments. Do you have one of these key moments when you talk to somebody who gave you much more trust than anybody else, for instance, or a place where you've stayed? Is there a key moment where you knew, well, now my life is getting where I want it to go?
So that's a really good question. I think my main thing is to always stay positive no matter what. So if negative things are being thrown at me, I try to look at it in a positive way. I think we all face struggles, but the only way you can get out of those struggles if you stay positive and find ways to help you. I used to call constantly, so I knew the wait list was 2 years. I called almost every week. Where is my name on this waiting list? I've been on the list for however long at the time. I would just constantly call. I was almost bothering them because I just wanted that apartment so bad. And I think
Nice.
that was my only motivation, truthfully, knowing that hopefully in so many years I have a place. It's just this amount of time I'll be homeless, and in 2 years from now I know I'll be here. And I think that's just always been my motive, is looking at where I can be in the future. You can either be where you are right now in 5 years, or you can do something about it, and in 5 years from now, you'll be in a better place.
Yeah. So perseverance is
Yeah.
and resilience.
Yeah,
You have a lot of it, right?
definitely.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. I think you need that calling every week. And
Right.
luckily, a lot of the homeless people out on the streets who suffer from mental illness or addiction or combinations, they don't have that skill. They lost it, or
Right.
they became right. But
Or
that's a
yeah.
good thing.
That is also an issue, is like mental health issues and homelessness. It's really sad, and it makes things a lot more difficult for them because they need that advocate to do those things for them. They need like some type of worker who can call these apartments and make sure that they're on the list, and they're checking on them on the list and helping them to get the housing, because they mentally are unable to do that. It's not their fault. They just can't do that. They need somebody to do that for them.
Yeah, I think you're
Still,
right.
still, I need an answer to my question, Liana. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just mentioned perseverance and resilience. Where did you develop that skill to keep people on your hook, not let them go, and call every week? And is it in your DNA? Did your parents give you that, or yeah?
Definitely. I wouldn't say it's from my parents. I think just myself, honestly, ever since I was 2, my grandmother raised me. So I was actually raised without my parents. I had a difficult life growing up myself, but I think it's just always been that thing where you are your own hero. I'm my own perseverance, and you got to give yourself your motivation sometimes.
I love that quote. You have to be your own hero.
Yeah, it's a
You
great
do.
phrase. It's a great phrase. So it sounds like if you were to give like advice to women, it's to persevere, to be resilient. Any other messages? The other things we could tell women and who were in your shoes at one point in time. Other things we can help them move themselves forward just a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just women are strong. We really are. We're doing a lot more than we've ever done nowadays. There's much more women-owned businesses and just women standing up for themselves and doing a lot. I think it's just really important to continue to have faith and know that there is help out there, and just find the organizations you can that can help you, and stay positive until you get to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're a great example of a young woman who can do that. What are you studying in college? Where's it going to take you?
So right now, I just got my associate's degree. So now I'm going for my bachelor's in business admin with a concentration in analytics and operations management.
Wow. So
yeah.
Really complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as you've been a student, have you met other women in similar circumstances to you, or about to be in similar circumstances to you? And what do you say to them?
So as a one family scholar, I actually see many different women facing similar things to what I was facing. Their stories are so impactful, and it's just great to see them also doing what I'm doing and going to school and trying to better themselves.
Mm-hmm. One Story Scholar. What is that, a program that you're part of, or?
Yeah. Yep. One Family Scholars. I think honestly they're huge to me. Like, I don't think I would even be where I am without them today. They help a lot. They have coaches that kind of help you figure out your goals and your next move. And, if you come from poverty and you don't have the knowledge of what is out there, and I always thought I couldn't even go to school until I talked to them and they gave me the motivation I needed. So, yeah.
You mentioned the word coaching. I think you'd be a great coach.
Oh, thank you. I would love to be a coach. My goal is actually to be a director of operations for a nonprofit organization so that I can help others as well.
Okay. And
I was just planning to say that you would make a great, if you don't succeed in business, become a social worker.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking around this operations stuff, Rokus, and more into the line staff work where the real stuff gets done. Because I think women like yourself, and you talked about women being strong, and it doesn't matter where we are in the world, that women need to speak for themselves,
right,
and to advocate for themselves, and you're certainly one of those people who advocate. So I think Rokus and I are going to be in touch with you about staying on that coaching side of the world.
Yeah.
Rather than getting behind the desk. We've both been behind the desk. It's not that much fun.
I was wondering, Leannah, so imagine yourself being in the position of being a director of an NGO helping, people who need help. What would be the first thing you would do?
So the first
on
thing
your watch.
Well, it's on my position as a director. If I was the director of the organizations, I would just be making sure everything was running properly. But my thing is, I just always want to have an open door policy. No matter what I am, I want my employees to feel comfortable coming to me to talk to me and know that I'll be able to help them with the resources they need. And just there will always be that level of respect, knowing that we're all people. And no matter your position, I think you should be helping others.
No waiting lists, right?
Yeah. No waiting lists.
No waiting lists. We're not gonna make people wait those 2 years. Now, you didn't quite say the word, but I think listening to people is so important.
Yeah, it is.
I know when Rokus and I have worked together over the years, it's like getting people to listen is so hard. Yeah. And I think you've been successful at that, and and it looks like you have a career that's going to move you in the path of getting people to listen,
Yeah.
And to pay attention. So we know that 5 years from now we're going to talk you out of this operations thing, and you're going to be the person who's the director.
Yeah.
Goals for the next 5 years for you?
Yeah, I definitely have goals for the next 5 years. So I am in subsidized housing right now. I like to look at it as a stepping stone. So I would love to be a homeowner one day, which is why I'm in college. I plan to graduate in the next 2 years with my bachelor's, and then hopefully get a job where I can make money above the average medium income and save for a home. And
yeah, and that's home ownership is so tough.
it's so tough.
It's so tough, and
Yep.
I would love to see us develop programs for women, but also for men and women
Right.
to become those first-time home buyers. And I'm guessing even in the Netherlands, Rokus, that's becoming the impossible dream here, to have your own home.
Yeah, it's impossible here for people who were in your position to buy a home. It's impossible. Even in this big city in Amsterdam, you can't pay. But I go to Norway a lot, and they have this NGO called Husbanken, which mean like data bank for homes or something. And I discovered an amazing thing, because they have their own bank where, as a homeless person, you can get a loan to buy your own house, which is, I've never visited a country where they had that opportunity. And I've met homeless people who got a loan from Husbanken to buy their own home, which is amazing, right?
Wow.
And I was really surprised by that. And I met this guy in Oslo who was able to do that, to get a loan from, it's not like an ordinary bank where we go like, what banks do you have? Citibank, or what is it? What is it called? The blue one.
The blue one, whatever it is,
Yeah.
they're charging too much
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, but
Chase, that's what you think of. Chase.
Chase, yeah,
We're
Chase Bank.
probably about to get sued by Chase Bank.
Oh, goodness.
But Husbanken in Norway, and you get the money against a very low interest rate. So it's pretty cool option. But in the Netherlands, no possible.
Yeah. So we're looking to develop that perfect program, and we know that there's so many pieces to it. We've talked about resilience. We talked about acting for your own, getting a good education, advocating not only for yourself but for other people. In the last couple of minutes we have, any advice for these two old guys? What should we do? What should we be advocating for?
I think you should continue what you're doing. Like, this is great, having a podcast and just getting all the information out there so people know the daily struggles, all the different daily struggles, and hopefully more people start to chip in and find ways to help, so we can make an end to all this homelessness and get more help.
That's what a terrific message. Rokus, any final thoughts here?
Well, I was wondering, because we always hope that a lot of people are going to listen to this podcast. Would any other women who are in your position be able to contact you, to write you an email, or who knows?
Definitely.
There are people out there who need us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would love to
Okay.
speak on the resources I know. So if any woman out there do want to contact me, I can give you guys my information, and maybe you can provide it on the link or something.
Sure. For those people who are listening, if you want, you can send an email to rich@heartsoundsus.org, and we will make sure that Leannah gets your message and is able to reach out to you, and we'll make sure that some of those connections start to happen. Our guest today has been Leannah Giles. My co-host, Rokus Lupik in the Netherlands, Rich Police.
Can I say one thing more, Rich?
Sure. That's the good thing about podcasts. We could talk forever.
No, it's wonderful, because we talk for 25, 30 minutes, and you were telling us you are your own hero. but you became our hero too in 25 minutes. You made my day. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It has been great having you here.
Thank
To our listeners, you've been listening to In Their Shoes, Rich and Rokus. Our guest today has been Leannah Giles from Marlborough, Massachusetts, a woman who has great resilience and is going to do great things in her life. Please look for us on Spotify, on Amazon Music, on Apple, and look for our next podcast. Please tell your friends that are out there and take a look at our website, heartsoundsus.org, heartsoundsus.org, or send me an email at rich@heartsoundsus.org. For all of us here at In Their Shoes, have a great day and keep on working.